Welcome to Best Life Ever, the podcast with your hosts, time and energy coaches, Kimi and Pua. Here at Best Life Ever, we are on a mission to expand the way people think, work, and live in today's modern world. Today, we have an epic interview for you with Crichton Uale.
Crichton is an actor, DJ, recording artist, comedian, and serial entrepreneur who owns and operates The Perfect Wedding DJs and Kukui Learning Center. He has acted in several commercials, films, viral web content, and recently was featured in Hawaii Five-0. Last year, Crichton released the hip-hop album titled Heir of the Islands Volume 1 under the stage name Island Heir and was also crowned the 2016 Iron MC through an invite-only competition of the same name. He currently does stand-up comedy weekly at Anna O'Brien's in Honolulu and is a producer and content creator for the comedy troupe Local Braddahs.
In this interview, Crichton shares with us about his experience with ADHD, integrating work and family life, his transition from the rat race to life as an entrepreneur, and so much more. But before we dig into this inspiring interview, we have an iTunes review to share. Yay!
Today's iTunes review comes from the higher self, and it reads, "I love these ladies and their great enthusiasm. They are so down to earth and fun. Really informative podcasts." Yay! Thank you so much.
Love that. Well, keep them coming, guys. We would love to read your review on the air. And now get ready. Here's our interview with Crichton Uale.
Welcome, Crichton, to Best Life Ever, the podcast.
All right. What's up?
All right. Crichton, we are so excited to have you today. And we cannot wait to hear about all of the amazing things you've been up to. And I just hope that you can share a little bit with our listeners right now about yourself, who you are, what your recent projects and endeavors are, because you are definitely up to some cool things.
I'm glad you think so. Yeah, I have fun. My name is Crichton Uale. Born and raised on Oahu, mostly in Honolulu, and spent some time off island where I learned a lot of fun things that now I'm back on the island and excited to pursue all the things I'm most excited about. I started after school, I went into the education field. I was a full-time teacher for a while, and one of my main goals as a teacher was to help my students find the things that they were most passionate about and try and guide them towards the resources that would help them to accomplish those things. And in doing that, was able to learn a lot about myself and then consequently put myself on the same path. And so I am an entrepreneur and entertainer, I guess I would call myself. I'm an actor. I'm also a musician. I do hip hop music mostly, and I'm a DJ. And that's where the entrepreneur side came in. Started my own DJ business, and then decided several years ago to focus on weddings. So the business is called The Perfect Wedding DJs. It's a lot of fun. Help people to have, kind of the best day ever of their life. Little plug for your show there. And from there, got a few other opportunities. I also started a business called Kukui Learning Center, which is educational services. And I'm also a part of a group called the Local Braddahs, and we do content creation, social media content, all comedy, and it's a lot of fun. I love it.
Wow. That is a amazing and eclectic variety of things you got going on. We love it so much. How fun. And gosh, can you just give us I'm so curious, what does a typical day look like for you? Is there such a thing in your life?
Thankfully,
that's a good question.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. Thankfully, there's no such thing as a typical day for me. I think when I did because I actually left teaching 3 times. But the first time I left, I went and pursued a few other jobs, And so I was in the corporate world for a little bit and did the whole 9 to 5 thing. And it, for me personally, it didn't match my personality and what I wanted to do. And I actually ended up getting really depressed. So falling into the monotony of a redundant routine was something that I wanted to get away from. So thankfully, with all the projects I'm involved in now, there's no such thing as a typical day. So there's days where I'll have projects that I'm shooting as an actor, and I gotta show up 5 a.m. on a set and be ready to read lines. Or if it's music, then there's recording or rehearsals, performances, and then of course, on the weekends is super busy because that's weddings and other events sometimes, gearing up all the equipment and getting my crew together and explaining to them the details of the event so that we can make sure we make it super special for the groom and the bride. And then, of course, there's the educational services side, which is a lot of fun because I have 6 teachers that I've recruited and trained, and I just try and make sure that they have everything they need to be really successful with the classes that we have them teaching. And with Local Braddahs, at least once a week, we get together and brainstorm, put together ideas, storyboard the ideas, write out scripts, and then start shooting videos and try and put a smile on people's faces. So that's
you don't do too much in a day.
Well, that's usually all different days that I explained.
That's
more
good.
Like a week or 2 weeks. No way I could do all of that in one day. No way. It's impossible. But when I am on sets for, movies or TV shows or commercials, when we're not shooting, I'm on my phone answering questions for people and trying to make sure that everything else is staying afloat.
Wow. I just think this is so interesting because you have somewhat of a reputation, I think, locally where, yeah, you do for sure. And it's all good. You're an amazing wedding DJ. I've worked with you a couple times and I've been to weddings that you've been at, and oh my gosh, it's so much fun. And you just get into it. Like your whole crew's over there dancing on the side. So awesome. I think I was at a wedding once where no one was really dancing, so you guys just got up and started all dancing on the dance floor. It was hilarious. You're like, I'm here, I'm gonna have fun, right? And then Local Braddahs, of course, everybody's following you guys, you're blowing up. But what is really interesting to me is your passion and not so public side of education. And I would love for you to share more about the Kukui Learning Center, because that really seems to have a special place in your heart, and not everybody really gets to see that.
Thank you. Yeah. On social media, I tend to spend more time pushing the other projects because the audience on social media is more interested in those, and so I don't get to share it a lot, so I'm really grateful for this. But yes, I have a huge passion for education. Started, when I was a kid, and I mean, I actually hated school. I hated school so much. I hated it, and I hated teachers, and I thought they were the enemy, and I always had detention, and I was suspended all the time and almost got expelled, and I had a hard time in school, and I didn't know why per se until I ran into teachers who, I guess, inspired me would be the best word. They kind of saw something in me and were able to help me bring those things out. Because I had a lot of teachers who kind of told me I'd never amount to anything, and I couldn't focus. That was the biggest part, is I was told that I was a bad student because I couldn't focus because I had ADHD. And it's like, and that's why I'm involved in a million projects at once, is because that's the way my brain works. But I was always told it wasn't okay until I met teachers who told me it was okay, and that I could make it work, and that I could play to my strengths, and I could become a great student. And it's funny because it didn't. I mean, there's my 5th grade teacher who started really getting that into my head. And then I had a few teachers in high school, the same, but I almost didn't graduate. It's kind of a weird thing to say now, especially for the people who know me as an adult, fully, as a full-time teacher, and now as a owner and director of an educational services company. If you heard like my old vice principal talk about how many times she had to suspend me, you would never believe that I would end up where I am now. But as I was in college, I just kind of happened upon a job working in the after-school program over at Haheone Elementary. And one of my main responsibilities was helping the kids with homework. And, at first it was just a job. I needed it. It worked out for my schedule, and I just needed money. But as I was working the job, I just developed this love for working with the kids and helping them to understand concepts. And once you see that light bulb go off in their head and they're like, I get it. And then all of a sudden, as I was working it, then parents were coming up to me and sharing how being a part of our program helped their kids' grades and helped them to enjoy school. And that's when I started really thinking, oh, maybe I should be a teacher. And I went into, I started looking into it. And next thing I know, I was graduated from Chaminade with a teaching degree, and I got a job right away. I mean, the week that I graduated, I got a job at Haheone Elementary where I was already doing my student teaching, and I took over the 5th grade class there, and I absolutely loved it. Of all the jobs as an employee that I've ever had, that job of being a 5th grade teacher for that group of kids is by far my most favorite job of all time. I don't think anything will ever be able to touch that as far as employment goes. But I quickly fell out of love with the technical aspect of being a teacher and the what I would deem impossible expectations coming from above with all the extra things. I mean, when you're in the class teaching with your students, it's amazing and it's magical, as silly as that might sound. I absolutely loved it. But as soon as the bell rang and the kids left, that's where the real work began. And it was overwhelming. And I witnessed countless teachers just so overwhelmed to the point where they're crying in their classrooms, and they spend the entire weekend trying to drink away the depression of what they're feeling, because it's a tough job. All the people who are still teaching, especially in public schools, I feel for them because I understand firsthand how tough it is. And because of that, I walked away from teaching, although I never lost my passion for education. And so this company, Kukui Learning Center, we are supplementing the education of the children of Hawaii, and we're trying to provide services that will help the overall learning and growth of the children of Hawaii that we don't see happening in the traditional school setting. So we're hoping that we can really make sure that the kids have every single tool and resource they need to be successful, whether they choose to stay in Hawaii or they go abroad or they end up going somewhere else and just impacting the world, making a positive change. I'm also hoping that we can get to the point where financially we can start to give back. We can provide scholarships for not only students, but I want to provide scholarships for teachers, and I want to provide support for teachers so they can continue to bless the lives of these kids that they're working with and follow their passion and be successful and then be as effective as it can possibly be.
Wow. What an amazing mission. That is so beautiful. And thank you. Thank you for that. And thank you for sharing. And you can just hear the passion in your voice when you talk about it. you touched a little bit on ADHD, and we read in your bio, that you had written that ADHD you feel can be a good thing when paired with hard work. Can you expand a little bit on your philosophy on ADHD? Because I think that it's something that, we hear a lot, and that many people identify as a limiting factor rather than, as you said, a good thing. Can you share about that?
Yeah. Absolutely. So I feel one of the things I learned as a teacher is growing up, we used to hear these terms categorized as learning disabilities. And then when I was being trained as a teacher, it was presented to me as a learning difference. And the teacher was showing me how brains work differently. And just because, 80% of the brains work a certain way doesn't mean the other 20% are wrong or bad. They're just different, which means, just like in communication, when we're trying to send a message, not everybody receives the message the same way. So as teachers, when we're trying to teach a concept, not all of our students are going to receive it the same way. So we need to learn how people read and receive messages and concepts. And so in doing so, I started to realize and started to learn that there's ways that we could reach out to every form of thinking, and that there was no such thing as a bad way of thinking. Just people's brains work differently. And in learning that, I was able to accept and understand the way that I think, because I had a lot of teachers telling me to focus, right? Focus on one thing. And if you can't focus on one thing, you have an attention problem, and that's bad. And in fact, I just tried. I really did try. I tried to focus, and I tried to make myself think like other people think, and it just didn't work. And I think when you go against your nature, at some point your body and your brain is going to kick back, and it's not going to be nice. It's going to be this harsh, it's like when you eat something you're not supposed to eat, your body's going to eventually reject it. So I stopped trying to force that round peg into a square hole, and decided to try and understand, okay, if I think about 10 things in 1 minute, instead of one thing in 1 minute like everybody else, how can I make that work for me? And part of it is that I'm super interested in lots of different things. So whether it's music or acting or building a business or comedy, like that's all interesting to me. But because I lose focus of something real quick, instead of getting upset about it, or instead of thinking that it's a bad thing, then I'll have these 5 to 6 things laid out in front of me. Instead of, like, I guess the best analogy is one person can focus on one nail and hammering that nail till that nail's all the way hammered in. For me, it's like there's 5 nails in front of me, all into a board, and I got to hit one nail twice, and then the next nail twice, and the next nail maybe 3 times, the next nail one, and I'll keep going down and restarting, going down that line, but eventually I'll get all those nails down. Whereas one person would have to do it one at a time. At the end of the day, we're both getting as much done. And if I could help other people who have ADHD to do the same thing, or at least embrace it and make it work for them, oh man, I would love to do that.
I think you're doing that right now.
Exactly.
Seriously.
Love that.
Like, it's so awesome that you've turned something that society has deemed a weakness and a detriment to your life, and turned it into a superpower. Right?
Oh wow. Thank you.
That's totally it. And it's so awesome.
I wanna make sure that I don't try and take credit for this, because I definitely did not come up with this idea on my own. There's a lot of teachers and a lot of mentors I've had that have helped me to understand this. I am not an inventor of turning ADHD into a strength, but I think, as you said, it was society told us it was bad, and I think it was just society didn't understand it. It was just because we're in the minority. Not everybody has ADHD. not everybody can relate to that. But for those of us who do, if there's enough of us who can band together and say, hey, this is what I tried and this is how it worked for me, then I think we're going to progress and figure out that it's not actually a bad thing, just things that people don't understand as much. We just need to spend a little bit more time trying to figure out.
Totally. And I don't think there are very many quote unquote inventors these days, but there are people, I shouldn't say that, but your message and the way that you say it will resonate so clearly to someone in a way that the same message hasn't gotten through by someone else. So, awesome. Do you keep walking the talk because you're doing it. And this is really valuable. I think a lot of people try to fit into the mold that we're supposed to fit into. And
yes,
thank God now there's all of these channels to learn that, we can do our own thing. We can totally be successful and happy and provide service to the world using the strengths that we have naturally, as you said, in ways that feel good to us, not ways that someone else has told us is right.
I agree. And if I could add that, I grew up a comic book fan. I grew up collecting comic books, and my favorite comic book was XMen. And so whenever I teach these creative writing courses, I always try and use examples that my students understand. And I always share with them that my favorite story was XMen. And in the story of XMen, I don't know if you ladies are familiar, but basically there's this species called mutants, right? And everyone looks at them weird because they look different a lot of times, or they'll act different, or they just have certain things that they can do and other things that they can't do. And because of it, they're kind of teased and they're made fun of and they're outcast from society. But Professor X, he's this mentor guy, right? And he takes them in and they have these mutations, which they often feel are deformities and weaknesses. And what he teaches them is that it's not a weakness, it's actually a power that you haven't learned yet how to use. And he then teaches them how to use it. And for me, I just always connected with that. So when you said turned it into a superpower, that just automatically brought me back to that. And I realized now even more so why I connected with that storyline. And I hope that people, even there's people listening maybe that don't have ADHD, but have some type of other thing that's different about them. And maybe their whole life has been told to them that it's a weakness, but maybe it's a strength that you just haven't learned to use yet. And I hope that we can help people to get to that.
Well, thank you, Professor X.
I love that. I love the way that, you've reclaimed so much of your power by releasing the judgment around it. And I think that is such a powerful message here, where it's really how much energy do we waste trying to, as you said, fit that, peg in the square, right? And it's like how much energy can we reclaim and how much power can we reclaim when we just own our gifts, right? Own our challenges perhaps as our gifts and really lean into that. And so I think that is so amazing. And what an opportunity then to stop wasting energy, beating yourself up for not fitting in and just really capturing that opportunity to be creative and to be you, as Pua said. Like that is so awesome. Wow. Yes. So you're also a father of 3. Is that right? Wow.
Yes.
So in addition to everything that you have going on, you also have 3 children. And so share with us a little bit about how you, balance, or as we like to say, integrate your personal and your professional life, your work and your regular life. Not regular life, but, all the things, right?
Work and family life. Maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because that's really important to me. Because honestly, everything that we've talked about that I'm involved in is because of my kids. I mean, they are without a doubt my biggest inspiration and the driving force behind everything I do. Because I was forcing myself into that 9 to 5 routine and doing the rat race because I thought that's what I needed to do. And when I had my first daughter, who's now 6, so I have 2 daughters and a son. I have a 6-year-old daughter, a 4-year-old daughter, and my little boy just made 1 a little while ago. And when my daughter was a baby, I decided that I wanted to make a list of all the things I wanted to teach her. And on that list, very near the top was I wanted to teach her how to find the things she was most passionate about and pursue them. And I realized that the only way I could teach her that was by doing it myself. Because if I tried to teach her to do something like that and she's like, wait, you want me to follow my passion, but you hate your job, Dad. I didn't want that to be the case. So my kids, I try not to lose focus of the fact that they are the reason that I'm doing all the things that I'm doing, and I'm trying to make them proud. I'm trying to build a legacy that will one day benefit them, hopefully, at the very least, inspire them to follow a similar path that'll make them happy and help them to live their best life ever, right? And so in doing so, I mean, as an entrepreneur, I get to make my own schedule. So almost every day, I'm involved in taking one or both of my girls to school. They go to different schools, and I help them to get ready. Oftentimes, I help them to eat breakfast and get dressed and get them, mentally prepared for their school day. I try and get them psyched up, like, what's going on today? What are you most excited about? How do you think your day is going to go? And give them that positive mindset before I take them off to school. And being able to be a part of their day like that. And then oftentimes my schedule will allow me to pick them up from school. So that's really exciting too, where I get to be that first point of contact to learn about their day, what they learned, what their challenges were that day, and what area or what was their biggest victory of the day. I like to have those conversations with them and then help them to get started on homework. And I'm still working on trying to see what they're most involved in. Both of them take piano and voice. They really like that. And my 4-year-old, she was doing ballet for a little while, but it was a little bit hard for her for the schedule. But it was fun for me because I got to take her every week to ballet. I made my schedule so that every Thursday I could be the one to take her to ballet and be there with her throughout that experience. And as long as I know that I'm making time for them and being able to have that connection and that relationship with them, I feel like I can succeed in everything else. I know that I can go back to my wedding DJ business and succeed there because the thing that's most important to me, which is being a father, that's in place. And I have that working for me. So everything else just ends up falling into place after that.
Wow. That is so, I can hear your passion and your love for your family in your voice. And it is such a cool, I'm envisioning there's this video of this man, I'm sure you've seen it, and his daughter is standing on her kitchen or her bathroom sink, the counter, and they're looking in the mirror. Yeah, and he's like,
the little curly haired girl.
Yeah.
Yes, I love
it. I am beautiful. I am strong. It could be you. I feel like,
oh man,
if you created that, it would fly all over the internet. That would be really cool.
I absolutely connect with that. I definitely try and make sure my kids hear enough positive affirmation from me that they don't go seeking it somewhere else. So yeah.
Wow.
I love it.
That's awesome. Good job, Dad.
Thank you.
Well, I am really curious to hear a little bit about your entrepreneurial journey because as we have worked with many people who may be thinking about starting out on this journey, and as entrepreneurs ourselves, we know that the road can be it can have some twists and turns. And it is so worth it, as I'm sure you agree. But there's challenge that comes. And I think the challenge brings a lot of fear to people who might be thinking about this or might be just starting out. And we'd love for you to speak a little bit to those challenges and to the fears that come up and how you've kind of learned and built your business through those.
Oh my goodness. Yes. I'm like shaking right now. I'm so excited to share this. Yes. So, wow, where do I begin? I think it all started when I was a little kid. In fact, I want to say I was in fourth grade. And I started making a list of all the things I wanted to do as an adult. And I remember sharing it with an adult. And I remember that adult telling me that was impossible to do that many things. And I remember thinking, wow, that is not what I expected to hear. But I remember thinking at the same time, like, that was where I think we all have that time in life where, where we flip that switch. Because when we're really young, it's like everything an adult says is like scripture. It's like they know everything, right? So if an adult tells me, I can fly, then shoot, I might jump off the roof because I'm going to believe everything they say. And I feel like that was the time where I finally separated from that thought process, because I remember the emotion behind what that adult was telling me, that this is impossible, you will never do this. And I remember thinking, like, why would they have so much negative emotion towards this? And I distanced myself from the idea then that everybody who was an adult knew everything about everything. And I decided to kind of spend the rest of my life trying to prove that person wrong. And so I tried to spend my life developing all these skills. And then still, when I became an adult, I fell right into the 9-to-5 rat race. Because somewhere along the line, I let enough people tell me that all the things that I wanted to do were impossible. And I realized that I was very, very, very unhappy. I was extremely unhappy. And I tried to find as many resources as I could to help me figure out what I needed to do to get out of that feeling. And it led me right back to where I had started. Even though I had strayed off my original path that I wanted to put myself on, it was kind of still there, waiting for me. And so that I understand the fear of leaving the security of a day job. I understand that, because when I decided to leave that life, I already had my second daughter. I had 2 kids, so I had mouths to feed. I had responsibilities. I had debts that I was paying off. Like I had a car loan that I had to pay every month. I had a bunch of other things I had to make sure I was paying regularly. And so, that fear is real, and that fear will keep a lot of people from their true happiness. And to me, I think if anybody could get just a little glimpse, and I'm not talking about everybody, because there's people out there who work jobs that they love. There's people out there who are employed, but they are making a difference, and they're doing something rewarding and fulfilling. They enjoy what they do. All of those people, I'm super happy for them, and good for them, because if it wasn't for those people, there's a lot of things that would fall apart. But there's a small percentage of people, maybe not tiny percentage. I think maybe it's almost an 80-20, like most other splits tend to be. 20% of the people, I would say, are like us. There's not a job out there that fits them, and they need to find their own way and create their own thing. And in the creation of their own thing and helping that to blossom and develop into something that like this, Best Life Ever, where you're helping to touch other people's lives and inspire people, helping them to find their true purpose. There's a good amount of people on earth who need to be doing this and want to be doing this, but are holding themselves back because of the fear. And I think if they could get a little bit of a glimpse of what it's like on the other side, they would realize that that fear isn't worth stopping them from doing what they really need to do. So, no, almost nobody knows this, but I'm going to tell you guys. I'm actually writing a book. I'm writing a book called Quit Your Job and Move to Hawaii.
Oh, love it.
And in actuality, I don't necessarily think everyone needs to quit their job. And I really actually don't want everyone to move to Hawaii. It's already crowded. But the concept is, that's what I did. I was living on the mainland. I was working a 9-to-5 that I hated, and I was very unhappy. And the beginning of my journey was realizing all the things that I was doing that I shouldn't be doing, and all the things that I really needed to do that I wasn't doing. And once I realized that, I started to save up. I started to save money, put away money every 2 weeks, and I was working my butt off. I was working full time, and then I had a part-time job in the evening waiting tables at a restaurant. And then on the weekends, I was DJing every event I could. And I was working myself to death, trying to save up to create a buffer for myself so I could go ahead and pursue the things I was most passionate about. And so the actual biggest, scariest part was quitting my job and moving to Hawaii, because I knew Hawaii was a place that I needed to be, that was going to bring me the most happiness, and that I was going to be my true self and be able to accomplish these things that most people thought were impossible. And so that was a step I needed to take. That was the first, scariest, and biggest step. And so the book that I'm writing is basically doing exactly what you guys are asking me to do right now for your listeners, is helping these people who know inside of them that they're not doing the things that make them happiest. I want this book to help them to get through that buffer of fear that's keeping them from that happiness and doing the things that will unlock these special superpowers, as was mentioned earlier, and help them to really do what they were meant to do on this earth, because it's not even just for them. I mean, as much joy as I'm sure this podcast and you guys' business Best Life Ever brings to you two, the amount of joy and fulfillment that it brings to others is even more important, right? Because there's probably thousands, by the time you guys are done, there's probably thousands to tens of thousands of people that you will touch through this. And to me, that's what it's really about. I mean, the fact that I'm happy and I'm living the best life ever for me, that's awesome. But what's going to be way more fulfilling and what I think will make my kids really proud is when I help other people to do that. That's where it really lies. And so I think that it starts by recognizing that you're unhappy, or at least not as happy as you could be. And then recognizing all the things that are holding you back from reaching that feeling of joy and fulfillment. And then identifying all the things that you'd have to do to get to it. As scary as they are, you got to identify them. You got to figure out what they are. And then once you've got those things identified, then figure out what you're going to do to get over that fear. And a lot of times it's like, I mean, I went skydiving, right? And I went skydiving with some people who were afraid of heights, and really what the fear is right before you jump, right? Because once I jumped, I still remember my heart racing as we were getting close to the door to jump out the door. But once we were out the door, oh man, it seems like you're falling in slow motion. And I did it on the North Shore, right? And so you're falling and you just, all I could see was like, this is the most beautiful place in the world. I mean, look at this island, look at the ocean. Everything I could see was just so beautiful that I could not take my mind off the beauty of those things. And the fear of falling was completely gone. And I mean, if you look at the videos or the picture of me skydiving, I just had this huge smile on my face because I am like living that moment and loving it so much. And that's how I feel now. I feel like it was super scary to leave the life that everyone tells you need to live, right? We're told you got to get good grades so you can get into a good college, so you can get a good degree, so you can get a good job, so that you can get into debt by getting a mortgage and a whole bunch of other things. And then you can retire at the end of your life after you've done whatever. And a lot of us buy into that. And some of us should not be buying into that. Because the way that we are going to make our impact on the world is by blazing our own path, not that path. Blazing a path that helps us to help others, or at the very least to be developing and bringing something to the world that otherwise wouldn't be there had we not been the ones to venture out, take a risk, jump out of the plane and do it. And so I don't know exactly what to say to every person who's in this situation, but all I can do is what I'm trying to do through this book is share my experience, and hopefully somebody else will be able to take from that and apply it to their world, their experience, their strengths, their fears, and go ahead and make that jump. Because once you do, like I said, once you get a glimpse of what it's like on the other side, you'll never go back. I'll never go back to working for somebody else and having someone else tell me what my schedule is and what I need to do throughout the day. That's just not for me. It's not where I'm at my best. And so I'm so glad that I had, examples of other people who did the same, so that I can be here and hopefully can help with you guys. Maybe I can team up with you guys and we can help other people do it too.
Love it.
Preach, brother.
Oh my gosh. We are so glad you're writing this book.
I'm at the edge of my seat.
We are first in line to get our hands on your book. Oh my goodness. Wow.
Maybe you guys can write the foreword.
Ooh. Wow. So, gosh, this has been the most amazing conversation, and we just can't thank you enough. And wow, I'm just speechless. And so people are going to be listening to this and they're going to want to get their hands on this book. They're going to want to hear more about you. They're going to want to follow your great work in this world. Where can people find out more about you? How can they connect with you? What's the best way?
The best way is probably through my Instagram. That's where I'm most active. Is my Instagram account. It's just my first and last name, Crichton Uale, CrichtonUale. That's where I document most things and announce most things when I have opportunities, because I do try and give other people opportunities to be a part of the different projects that I'm doing. So yeah, if anyone's interested, follow me on there and connect with me on there. And if you have things that you're involved in that you think might make sense for me to know about, and we can collaborate and help each other, I'm all about trying to make sure that I'm completing the circle and helping other people to pursue their passions.
Awesome. And if you guys do reach out to Crichton on Instagram, know that he's very responsive. He's not just like, you respond to everything. It's so cool. Not everybody does that. So don't stop. It's awesome.
Yeah, if anyone's following me on anything else, sorry. I'm not as active on those things. But find me on Instagram. I'm usually on there.
He's responsive and honest. Awesome, Crichton. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. We can't wait for this episode to be released. This is going to be so valuable for people. And just thank you again for the experiences that you've had and the lessons you've learned, and for sharing those with the world, because you're going to help so many people. And we're just so honored to have you and to be your friend.
Oh, thank you so much for the opportunity. I really enjoyed being on your podcast. I'm so humbled that you ladies would even consider me to be on this with you. I'm just a big fan of what you two are doing. I follow you guys on everything. I'm always liking it because I just really believe in what you two are doing. So please keep up the good work.
Thanks, Crichton.
Thank you. See you soon.
Thanks, ladies.
We hope you enjoyed this conversation with Crichton Uale. You can find all the show notes at bestlifeever.buzz/episode 76.
We have a super special announcement for you guys. We currently have a couple of spots open in September for our small business time and energy coaching. We just love our small business clients. They bring us so much joy, and it's so exciting for us to give them the time and energy tools to take their business and their lives to the next level. If you're a business with 1 to 10 employees looking for strategies to reduce overwhelm and work smarter, we got your back.
Reach out to us. You can email us at aloha@bestlifeever.buzz or visit our website.